Rarity's new dress. It was a quiet day in Ponyville. Every pony was relaxing and enjoying the nice weather. The Pegasus ponies had cleared up every single cloud in the sky. The young fillies were playing in the streets, and the mares were strolling along through the park. Every pony was taking the day off. There was only one pony working that day. It was Rarity, who had spent the entire day in her shop, the Carousel Boutique. No pony really noticed where she was. The issue wasn't noticed until her best friend, Fluttershy, became worried. Fluttershy decided to enter her store and see what was happening. When she entered the shop, she found piles of poorly made dresses scattered across the floor, and Rarity working hard at her sewing machine. Fluttershy approached her and said, "Hey Rarity, you want to come out and play? It's a really nice day. We can hang out together if that's okay." At first, Rarity didn't respond, and Fluttershy began to back away from her. Suddenly, Rarity turned around. She looked horrible. She was exhausted, and her mane was dirty. This was unusual of Rarity, since she always cared about having a perfect appearance. "Fluttershy, I have a ton of work to do. I have to make a new unique dress by the end of the day, and I can't have any pony bothering me." Fluttershy responded awkwardly. "Okay, Rarity. I'm sorry. I'll let you get back to your work." Fluttershy started to leave the shop, when suddenly, Rarity stopped her. "Fluttershy, I have an idea. Maybe you can help me with my dresses," she said, in a menacing tone. "What would you like me to do? I don't know anything about dressmaking at all." "I need models for my dresses. I want you to go look for a model." "So, you want me to find some pony that will model your dresses?" "Yes. Bring me Applejack. She will make a fantastic model." Fluttershy responded. "Okay. I'll go get Applejack. I'll get her over here as soon as I can." "Excellent! Now go. Go on." Fluttershy left the boutique and headed towards Sweet Apple Acres. About an hour later, Fluttershy returned with Applejack. They entered the store and found Rarity waiting there, patiently. She looked excited. "Ah, perfect! Now, Applejack, would you follow me into the basement?" Fluttershy and Applejack both looked at each other and responded, "The basement?" "Yes, the basement. Now, Applejack, please follow me." Hesitant, Applejack followed her downstairs. No pony has ever seen the basement before, except for Rarity. Right before she opened the basement door, she told Fluttershy to leave, and not to be back until a couple of hours. But she did tell her to come back later. "Okay, Rarity. Whatever you say, I'll do it." Fluttershy left the shop and went back to her house. She returned a couple of hours later. When she entered the shop, she heard what sounded like a sink running from the basement. the water suddenly stopped, and Rarity emerged from the basement. "Where's Applejack?" Fluttershy asked. "Oh, she's fine. She's just finishing up downstairs." "Okay, so what do you want me to do now?" Fluttershy asked. "I need you to bring more friends. I need them to be models as well." "Why do you need more than one model?" "Just do it!" Okay. Sorry for asking." Fluttershy left the shop. A few hours later, Fluttershy brought back Rainbow Dash, Pinkie Pie, and Twilight to Rarity's house. While Fluttershy waited, Rarity took all three of them downstairs to the basement, while Fluttershy waited outside. When Rarity finally came out of the basement a few hours later, she had an evil grin on her face. "Fluttershy, my masterpiece is almost complete." "That's great. Do you need me to do anything else?" "Yes. There is one more thing. I need you to come downstairs and critique my work." "Whatever you say." Rarity escorted Fluttershy downstairs and locked the basement door behind them. The basement was dark and musty. It had an odd stench. It was unlike the rest of the shop. For a moment, Fluttershy thought Rarity had left her down there, until suddenly, something stuck her in the back of the head. Everything then faded to black. Fluttershy woke up. Her head was hurt, and there was blood dripping down her mane. She found herself unable to move. "Just a little tighter, and perfect." Rarity, what are you doing?" "Making a magnificent dress, of course." Fluttershy looked around the room. The room was dimly lit. There was a table of a bunch of bloody surgical tools scattered across it. Suddenly, she saw something odd. "Rainbow? Twilight?" She saw a bathtub and what looked like 4 ponies piled up on top of each other. They were skinned clean. They had their hooves chopped off and their eyes removed from their sockets. They were missing most, if not all, of their teeth. The bathtub was filled with water and blood. "Rarity! How could you? Why?" Fluttershy cried. "It's the perfect idea. I can use my friends to make the perfect dress." Rarity then grabbed Fluttershy's head and directed it to the right side of the basement. "See?" There was a sloppily made dress, resting on a mannequin. It was poorly stitched and oddly colored. It had blue rings, orange hooves, a purple mane, and a pink rump. "Now all we need is a cutie mark." "This isn't a dress. Those were our friends. You monster! You monster!" Fluttershy couldn't control herself. Now, we can't have all that noise." Rarity went over to the table and took a bloody cloth. She tied it around Fluttershy's mouth while she struggled. "There, all better. Now let's begin! Rarity took a scalpel off the table and started to make an incision in Fluttershy's flank. Streams of blood poured out of Fluttershy's flank. She started to kick and struggle to escape. This started to annoy Rarity. "Oh, will you stop?" she said playfully. Rarity went over to the table and found a sledgehammer. "This shall do the trick." With the hammer, Rarity smashed both of Fluttershy's legs. "Oh, and what are we going to do about those wings?" She picked up a saw. "Rainbow Dash sure did a number on my saw. She was a fighter. It's always the Pegasus ponies that struggle with me the most." Rarity began to force the saw through Fluttershy's wings. At this point, Fluttershy began to pass out because the pain was so intense. Her muffled screams have gone quieter and quieter. Rarity noticed she was fainting. When she finished removing her wings, Rarity took the scalpel and inserted it into Fluttershy's eyes. "There we go now. You won't fall asleep on me." Rarity took the scalpel and forcefully removed both of Fluttershy's eyelids. Fluttershy yelped in agony. While doing this, Rarity realized that she had almost forgotten to remove the part she wanted, her flank. "Oh, I almost forgot." Rarity took the scalpel and continued to remove her flank carefully. "See? It's much easier when you're not kicking and screaming." Rarity then finished the incision. "Look, Fluttershy, cutie mark and all. This will look perfect on my dress." Fluttershy was mumbling and could no longer speak clearly. "Ah, you don't look too good, Fluttershy. You should see yourself now." Rarity picked up a mirror from the table and stuck it in Fluttershy's face. "Now look at yourself. You're a mess." Fluttershy gazed in the mirror. She saw what was left of her. Her legs were broken, hooves bleeding. She had no eyelids or wings, and her flank was completely removed. "Now, what should I do with you?" Suddenly, an evil smile stretched across Rarity's face. "I have an idea! I can use the rest of your fur to make more beautiful dresses." Rarity then picked up the scalpel. She looked at the scalpel in disappointment. "Oh, this will take too long. I need something sharper." Rarity looked around for a bigger knife, but she failed to find one. "Maybe I have one upstairs." She rushed upstairs, leaving Fluttershy alone in the basement. Fluttershy was finally alone, away from the psychopath that her friend had become. She could barely breathe. She was losing blood fast. She started to cough up blood and puke. Suddenly, she heard something enter the shop from upstairs. "Twilight!" it yelled for. "Applejack? Pinkie Pie?" At this moment, Fluttershy could recognize the voice as Spike. Fluttershy tried to think of a way to get his attention to the basement. The only thing Fluttershy could move was her head. So she tried to slam her head against the table her body was laid on. It forced more blood out of her, but it worked. Spike heard the noise from the basement and quickly headed to the door. "Any pony?" He started to walk downstairs and began to notice the gruesome events of what had happened. He saw the dead ponies in the tub the poorly stitched together dress, and the barely alive Fluttershy on the table. "Fluttershy!" he said in worry. "Who did this?" Spike removed the bloody cloth from Fluttershy's mouth. Rare. She puked again all over herself. Rare. She tried to say her name, but it never came out. Who? But at that moment, Spike fell face forward on the ground, dead. Lodged in his back was a hunting knife. "Oh, Spike, it's so nice to finally see you. Silent and still, the way you always should have been." With no hope of escape, Fluttershy took one last painful breath and died.